Okay, for our presentation today, we have Heather Fisher, a nutritionist with FSU, and she's going to do a presentation on nutrition. Enjoy.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Heather Fisher. I work at Florida State. I'm a dietitian at the health center, and I see students for individual counseling. And my interest area, my focus area, is working with individuals that struggle with eating issues, compulsive overeating, anorexia, bulimia, and that sort of thing. So today I'm going to put across to you guys a way of thinking about eating that might be different from what you've heard before. It's called mindful eating. It's an approach to be a little bit more intuitive about your eating in order to manage your weight. And so I really encourage questions. It's pretty informal. I know we have the camera, but I really encourage questions. So here's a cartoon. I only lost 1 pound before I quit my diet, but if I could do that 50 times, I'll lose 50 pounds. So this is kind of a funny way of looking at dieting in our culture. We tend to diet quite a bit. And people tend to deprive themselves and get on their diet, and they avoid bad foods, and they just eat good foods. And so I want to talk about a little bit how we talk about food in this way so that we can get a little bit more comfortable with our food choices. So a mindful eating approach is pretty kind of basic, but it's hard for many of us. Listening to your body, knowing your hunger and fullness cues. How many of us are able to identify in the day when we get hungry? Pretty good about that. It is natural, normal to be hungry every 2 to 4 hours. All of us differ in our metabolism. Okay, I eat every 2 hours. That is my metabolism. To ignore your hunger is to ignore those cues that are essential for keeping your weight under control. So it's not good to skip meal. Skip a meal, skip a snack. When you're hungry, you need to eat. Okay. Eat what you want when you're hungry, stop when you're full. Now, this is kind of common sense, but it's difficult in a situation when the food tastes really good and you tend to override those fullness cues and you just keep eating and finish the plate and then you're stuffed. We're going to do that on occasion, and that's normal and natural. You shouldn't guilt yourself about that. You want to decrease, however. So in order to eat what you want when you're hungry, stop when you're full, not stuffed, you really need to take your time. Herein lies the mindfulness. When you take your time and you really try to, I know it sounds kind of new agey, but it's not. When you really try to connect with your fullness, you're really helping yourself to be a little bit more intuitive. There's no food that you can't have when you consider balance, variety, moderation. Next slide, please. So right here is just a representative slide showing a diet mentality versus a non-diet approach. I'm suggesting a non-diet approach to weight loss and weight management. Okay? With the diet mentality, you're looking at your goal of weight loss. I just want to drop 50 pounds. I'm going to my sister's wedding. I've got to get into the dress. You know, it's just weight loss. Non-diet approach is confidence in your ability to make choices and control your eating. Food. Food is the enemy, deprivation, and willpower is what you're trying to aim for. With a non-diet approach, food is not your enemy, it's your friend. Tasting the food, enjoying the food, savoring the food. So my example would be when you call something bad, say, I think donuts are bad. And I say, Marie, I can't believe you are eating that donut. That is a bad food. How is that going to make you feel about that choice? So when you label food as good or bad, you're you're instilling it with some sort of power. When you eat a bad food, you feel guilty. I never tell students to avoid, or a client to avoid a particular food. Now, if a particular food is unsafe for you, that's different. If you have it in your food environment and you can't control the amount of it that you eat, and when you become upset, emotional, anxious or whatnot, and you go to the cookies, then you don't need to be having the cookies in your food environment. If you want a cookie, you go out and buy a cookie. That cookie is not bad. Your relationship to the cookies is unhealthy. Does that make sense? Because in that situation, you're using that food to cope with whatever emotion that you're having. So you really want to tease out those foods that are not safe, but they're not bad. Attitude with a diet mentality is that I'm trying to be perfect, I'm trying to count my points, I'm trying to get everything just right. Healthy, non-diet, controlling your weight requires flexibility, and you go with the flow. So when you go to a family gathering and they have some decadent food, you don't step back and say, I can't eat that, that's not on my diet. You know before you go to your family situation, you've been in the family situation before, you prepare yourself for the family situation by maybe taking a snack, container of yogurt before you go so you're not overly hungry. Don't skip meals before you go see your family because you know it's going to be decadent, because then it's going to be on. You're going to eat everything up. You're going to notice that when you're with your family, they're going to say, oh, you're not eating so much. Are you on a diet? No, I'm being mindful about my fullness, and I'm full. What?
Yeah.
You don't like my cooking? In my family, it's like, you don't like my cooking? Yes, I love your cooking. I'm full now. I can't tolerate it anymore. So it's a flexible approach. So you're not the nutrition Nazi here. So mindful eating simply means paying attention and being non-judgmental in your food choice. You should not be overly restrictive, but neither should you respond to every whim to eat. You want to identify, am I hungry? Am I emotional? Okay? We all tend to, many of us tend to go to food to cope with something. Would that be, that would be, thank you. So, next one. This would be a mindless eating cycle where you're not even paying attention. You had a bad day. Your boss stressed you out. Oops, sorry. You mindlessly eat. You sit on the couch with a bag of potato chips. When you get home, you turn on Dr. Phil. You eat the whole bag of chips or the half a bag of chips, and then you're going to get the cookies out of, After you do that, you're like, I feel horrible. It keeps that cycle going.